Hey everyone, my name is Julia Shermer and I'm a sophomore at the University of Southern California. Here I'm studying social sciences with an emphasis in psychology, and I also have a sports business and management minor. Now, in high school, I took on a lot of activities and I also had a pretty big academic workload, so I really had to learn how to develop time management skills. This video is going to be about these skills and how to develop them. Now, I feel I've really mastered these skills in college as I've taken on more both academically and more activities. I really think that time management is the key to success in college. A lot of people might tell you, or you might think it's about just being naturally gifted and smart, but it really is about how you can designate time for certain activities and ensure that you do well in all of these areas. So in high school, I'd obviously go to class for about 7 to 8 hours a day. Then I'd usually have basketball practice for about 2 to 3 hours. I'd come home, maybe do an extracurricular activity for about an hour. Then I would do my homework and go to sleep. Wake up the next day and repeat till Friday. So as you can see here, there were only about 3 to 4 events I had to keep track of. Now, when I first got to college, I was planning to keep my same mode of organization that I used in high school. However, I quickly learned that college would require more organization, more preparedness, as there is so much more to take on. For example, I realized I'd have to be in charge of cleaning my living space, doing my own laundry, getting groceries, making meals, as well as taking care of myself by working out, going on walks, socializing, whatever that may be. So a typical day in my college routine kind of looks something like this. Of course, it varies day to day, but this will give you a general idea. So I wake up pretty early, usually go to the gym for an hour. Then I'll have morning class, whether that's one class or two. I might have a break somewhere in between where either I'll work or I will study. Then I'll usually have another class, and again, with that break, I always want to make the most use of that I can, so I'll usually go to my job or I will study. Then at night, I will usually have a club meeting or perhaps two, and I might see a friend, and of course, within that, you have to make time for meals. In college, when it comes to studying, you're also going to be doing it for longer as your classes will be more demanding, so that is another thing to keep track of. You might also have certain appointments, whether it's medical, academic, with academic advisors that you need to keep track of, and your classes will be more inconsistent. So in high school, you'd have all your classes in a row for about 6 to 8 hours, depending on your school. But in college, you usually have a class, say, from 10 to 12, and then from 3 to 5, maybe even one from 8 to 10. So those are 3 things you need to keep track of rather than one giant block of about 7 classes. Now, I know this sounds like a lot, and some of you might be worried that it could influence your success academically. However, there are great steps you can take to make sure you do well in all these areas and have the most fulfilling college experience. It really just takes an organized system to do well. My first pro tip for staying organized would be to utilize Google Calendar. You can access this on pretty much any internet browser. And on Google Calendar, you can color code different events, different classes, anything you want. It's a really visual way to help keep everything structured. My second pro tip would be to carve out specific blocks of time for studying. So a lot of times we know we're going to study in our free time, but sometimes it doesn't get done. If you put a block on your Google Calendar, I'm going to study Spanish from 5 to 6 p.m., you are more likely to do it. I'd also recommend setting time limits for yourself. This will help you not get distracted and ensure you get everything done in a certain amount of time. So say you have that Spanish test coming up on Friday, and you feel pretty confident, so you only think you need about an hour to study. Designate that 5 to 6 p.m. hour and give yourself 1 hour and see if you can get everything done, and you likely will. Also, the more you write down and the more you input into your calendar, the less you have to remember. And that's really great for college since you are keeping track of so much. So now we can get into talking about some more specific tips and study strategies and schedules for big exams and big projects in college. So in college, studying the night before for a test probably really isn't going to work. In high school, tests would often only quiz you on things from the past week, maybe the past 2 weeks, but in college, it's a lot more standard to be tested on things from the past month or even the entire semester. So my very first big test in college was a biology exam, and I made the mistake of studying like I did in high school a lot of the times. So in this class, I was pretty confident on the material. I just decided to look over my notes the night before, which was a mistake for many reasons. It wasn't an active form of studying, and it was only the night before rather than a few days. I ended up with not a great score on the exam, which I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was really sad when I saw this. I knew I had to make a change right away, so for the next exam, which was the midterm, I decided I would study the whole week leading up to the midterm. I did about a few hours of studying every day on subjects I really needed help in. I did a short block of time each day, which really helped me grasp the information so much better, and I got a great grade on the exam. So if you want to do really well on a test, the best way is to divide up those hours over a few days. So say you want to study for a test about 10 hours. It's a lot more effective to do 2 hours over 5 days than 7 hours in one day and 3 hours in another. Also, it is helpful to designate time, like I said earlier, on that Google Calendar and put what specific subtopic you actually want to study. So another really big key to doing well in college is to make sure you maintain focus throughout your tasks and schedule at all times. Since you have so much to take on in college, it really is important to stay focused and make sure you're using your designated time as you intended. So one thing that started happening to me as I began college was I would wake up every day super motivated to get everything done on my task list and really wanting to do that. However, oftentimes I'd find myself at the end of the day that I didn't feel that accomplished. I didn't really stay true to the task I wanted to complete at hand. One way I combated this issue was by using the Pomodoro technique. How it works is you set a timer for 25 minutes. During those 25 minutes, you just study, just on one task that you decide. After 25 minutes, set a timer for 5 minutes, and then you can relax, go get a snack, maybe read your pleasure book, whatever it might be. Then you're going to repeat this cycle about 4 to 5 times, just depending how you feel. And after the cycle is completed, you can take a 50-minute break. So another great way to stay focused in college is to pick a productive environment that works best for you. So my first year of college, when I was a freshman, it was all online because of the pandemic. So I was doing the majority of my studies in my bedroom. This was really hard because I was in the same environment all the time, pretty much 24/7, didn't have any variety, and I wasn't surrounded by anyone else doing the same thing I was. It was just me alone studying. When I got to college my second year, I realized how much better and more effective I felt when I was studying in the library. It is really important to find a library that would work best for you. Some libraries, there's low conversation, and some people like this because it makes them feel more like they're surrounded by others and they can be more productive. Some people are more distracted by this. So there are libraries that are totally silent. Personally, I like to go to these quieter libraries when I'm doing a reading assignment or something very, very important. If I'm doing a collaborative group work, I will go to one of the more conversational libraries. So it's really all about exploring your campus and figuring out what is best for you, where you're going to be the most productive, and where you can get the most done in the time you have. So as mentioned before, you'll probably be involved in a lot of extracurricular activities in college. These are great, they can be very fun and engaging, but keep in mind they are time commitments. I'd also recommend doing extracurriculars that are only very meaningful to you, so that you don't overwhelm yourself and take on too much. If you're doing things that don't have meaning to you, there's not really a good point to be spending your time on them. For example, I'm part of only 2 to 3 clubs that mean a lot to me. They are big time commitments, and I also work. Now, if you are overwhelmed with all of the extracurriculars you have and the academic commitments you have, it is okay to take a step back. For example, my freshman year, I wanted to be a part of 4 clubs. However, I quickly realized that that was going to be too many and it would affect my grades. As such, I had to drop one of the clubs, but I was so thankful that I did because I ended up getting much better grades at the end of the semester than I would have if I'd kept that 4th time commitment. There's nothing wrong with letting go of something. It will actually lead to better results and better outcomes. It can also be important to continue to manage your time well and stay productive during winter breaks, summer breaks, or anything leading up to college, and also once you're in college. Now, a lot of times people might think that all college students do some amazing internship or land their dream job during breaks, but this is not the case. It's important to remember how important breaks are, and you can stay in the right mindset while doing kind of lighter tasks. So some of the things that I liked to do during my breaks were apply for scholarships. This made sure I kept my writing skills in check, it kept me thinking, it kept me advocating for myself, but I was also not taking on too much and still had time to do other things like travel, do my hobbies, or spend time with my family. Another thing I really like to do and recommend is about 1 to 2 weeks before the start of the semester is to look through your posted course syllabi, email the professor, introduce yourself, start that relationship, and start buying your books, maybe even reading some of them if you're super excited about them. This is another great way to stay in that kind of academic mindset and really just ensure that you are taking a break, but at the same time keeping those skills in check. Now, with all this said about time management, it is also super important to acknowledge that everybody does have some setbacks and not everyone has it together all of the time. So you might have an impression that college students always know what they're doing and know what's coming up and have everything perfectly organized, but that's not the case. Trust me, even for me, I'm still learning. So it is super normal to have setbacks. I had one last semester in fall of 2021. At the beginning of the semester, I got very sick. I had to leave campus and go home. I couldn't study for about a week, which was really difficult at the beginning of the semester when everything's kind of getting rolling and you're still figuring out your classes. I was pretty nervous about it, but the main thing I did was constantly stay in touch with my professors as I was sick and I was at home and just keeping them updated about the situation. This ensured that they were very understanding and accommodating as they really just appreciated the real-time communication. Now, for my return to USC, I made a plan for when I came back. And I decided that I would devote a lot of my time to studying and I would have to kind of lay off on some of the extracurriculars I was doing. I would still be involved, but I wouldn't go above and beyond like I usually like to. So for about a week or two, I really devoted this extra time to studying. And this is what really helped me get back on track and end with a great semester. So that is all I have in terms of time management and academic preparedness for college. I hope you've realized how important these time management skills are and how they really can lead to a successful college experience. We've talked about the differences of high school versus college and how important it is to have a set schedule in college as you will be asked of more. One way you can do this is by keeping track of everything on your Google Calendar and making sure on there you carve out specific blocks of time for study commitments. It's also important to form study plans for exams and projects, and staying focused can really lead to productivity. Finally, I want to remind you not to be too hard on yourself. It is a process that I hope you'll really enjoy. Best of luck on your academic journey.